Welcome on into the First Round Fantasy Podcast, your home for second round advice. We're the gruesome twosome today, missing the two other parts of this choo-choo train that makes us go. Joseph Marsales, they'll catch us next week. But I got the one true always, Jacob Bartley. How we doing today, man?
I am great, man. I'm doing very well. I do want to show off some gold real quick. My sole championship last year.
From what league?
The Apocalypse Fantasy Football League.
Oh my gosh. You made your
won. As you see, Joe won the first two seasons. He has his little marks here, and I won the third one. It's going to be on the way here soon. But it's the only championship I won last year.
You know what? I'm very surprised. I never saw that. And is this the end of the Apocalypse League for all the fans out there who are curious how deep we go into?
There's actually been a development, and maybe not. We'll talk about it later, though.
Oh man, okay, behind the scenes, I guess. Well, yes. Today we are talking rookie quarterbacks leading up to the draft. We've looked at a couple of mock drafts. We've looked at a couple of rookie QBs. We're going to give you our 2 cents about what they might be fantasy-wise and where they might potentially land. Before that, we're going to get into some news. More importantly, or I should say first of all, the Niners. They get the number 3 pick in the NFL draft. Jacob, gut reaction right off the bat as a Niners fan. How are you feeling? It pretty much solidifies the fact that the Niners will be taking a QB in this year's draft. Any guesses as to who and how are you feeling about it?
Man, first of all, just in general, I love it because it means that they are, and it might just be all the madman Kyle Shanahan. This guy is on a mission, but it might just be all his doing. But either way, the organization, they're on a mission, man, to figure this out the best way they can. And I like the move overall. I actually love it because if you think about Patrick Mahomes these last couple years, and if you look at Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow and look at Baker Mayfield and the Browns, what have they been able to do because they have rookies, really good to great quarterbacks on rookie deals, build the team around them. Mm-hmm. And when you have Baker Mayfield's not even a top 10 quarterback, and because he has such a great team built around him, they're able to succeed. And so when you have a Herbert or a Burrow or Mahomes, obviously, and you can build a team around them when these guys have, the potential to be top 10 quarterbacks for a long time, then it really sets you up for success. And eventually you're going to have to pay the guy, but you're already going to have everybody else in place before then. So I think that's what their plan is, to bring in a rookie, move on from Jimmy G after a year, and go from there, because we already have a solid foundation, and we're going to have to pay Bosa soon. Kittle's contract kicks in, so it's financially smart. And I honestly, look, everybody is.
Are you going to give us your thought as to who?
Yes.
Should we keep it for later, or you want to just tell us the surprise now?
So, all right. Okay, who I actually really think they're going to take is different than my choice for later. So it's very difficult to go against what's being thrown out there right now is Mac Jones. That I believe, some of these high-end reporters are reporting that it's going to be Mac Jones. And I'm just like, look, I'm not going to pretend that I know a lot about college football. I don't watch college football that much. I want to start getting into it this upcoming year. But so I don't know, prior to a month ago, I didn't know the difference between Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, even Zach Wilson. But I've been doing a lot of studying the past month. And from when I started studying, everybody had Mac Jones as a back end first round quarterback, maybe even slipping to the second round. And now suddenly he's leapfrogging Lance and Fields and might be the number 3 overall. I just don't see how that it is a thing. And also, why give up so much just to jump to number 3 to get Mac Jones when, he likely wasn't going to slip. He probably wasn't. He might not have slipped to 12, but you could have moved up maybe a little bit lower and given up less. So I think it's going to end up being Mac Jones because that's who Shanahan wants, but that's not who I want.
From what I've heard, and again, I don't have the source right in front of me, but I was reading an article earlier today, and it seems like both Trey Lance and Mac Jones had workouts, their pro day workouts on the same day. And I believe it was Shanahan, the head coach, who went to Mac Jones's pro day along with like two other coaches, and then they sent some scouts over to Trey Lance's. And did I get those switched up, or did you?
No, I think. Well, I'm glad you brought this up because I learned something today that I did not know. So apparently, if I'm not mistaken, Justin Fields, when they went to go to Mac Jones pro day, that was his second pro day, and I think they only do 2 pro days. So that was the last time to see Mac Jones in person.
Oh, okay.
So then, and at the time, Justin Fields hadn't done his pro day yet. So now Kyle Shanahan and the crew are going to see Justin Fields at his second pro day. So that was their last chance to see Mac Jones, and they knew they had another chance to see Justin Fields. So maybe this is being blown out of proportion, and like they're like, oh, they chose to go to Mac Jones over Justin Fields. But maybe that makes sense though. If it was your last chance to see Jones, then you might as well go see him, and knowing that Fields had another pro day coming up.
Yeah, well, hey, that makes sense. I didn't know that second part. So if that's the true case,
so that gives me hope.
Yeah, it gives you hope, right? Well, we'll debate these guys a little bit later as we talk about them, because I know you just said it, but we'll get a little bit more in depth. Before we do that, let's move into another massive trade that happened just a few days ago, and that was Sam Darnold, New York Jets quarterback, heading to the Panthers via trade. Panthers got a few picks for him, or Panthers gave away a few picks for him. Sam Darnold, I think this is a huge upgrade. He now surrounds himself with a organization who believes in him, whereas in New York, they were clearly planning his exit. And he finds himself in, what is it, North Carolina? Yeah. No, wait, Carolina. Just Carolina.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day. So it's in one of those states, South Carolina or North Carolina.
If you didn't notice, we're West Coast people.
Is it right on the border? I don't know.
Maybe, who knows? But he surrounds himself with arguably much better talent in, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, newly acquired. They got another wide receiver over there. And, of course, the big name of them all, CMC. It's a huge upgrade. Dynasty owners of Sam Darnold have to be pleased with that. Bridgewater, likely out, probably finds a backup role somewhere. He was given permission to seek a trade. We'll see how that shakes out, but he'll likely just be on your waiver wires from here on out. And then, again, it opens the door on the New York side of things to really just consider who are they taking at number 2. Obviously, a QB. Which one is it? I guess we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But before we do, let's focus on Sam Darnold, since he's not the topic of today's show. How excited are you about his new team? Are you more excited let's just say he goes into next season, he's the Jets quarterback. Cool. He's got Jamison Crowder, Denzel Mims, whoever they have at running back. You have to be more excited, right, about his new home in Carolina?
Absolutely, 100%. I might be one of the few people who actually think this is an upgrade for the Panthers as well. And obviously, to me, I think this is an upgrade for Sam Darnold because he's had such a toxic 4 years in the NFL so far. Mm-hmm. And has it been 4 years? No, it's
been 3 years. I think
this will be his 4th year coming up. So yeah, it's toxic. Like, he's been bashed. Some Jets fans I've heard like him, but he's been bashed by the New York media, all this stuff. And I just think it's a fresh start for him to get out and start over. And I love this for him because, look, he with Robbie Anderson, he played with Robbie Anderson in New York, and that's the best receiver to receive passes from Sam Darnold. Robbie Anderson had a 1,200-yard season when he played with Sam Darnold, and that's the best receiver performance when Sam Darnold is the quarterback. So he's reunited with Robbie Anderson. Obviously, DJ Moore might be the best wide receiver he's ever played with. Christian McCaffrey is definitely the best running back he's ever played with. He's never had a strong run game to support him to make defenses think that he might not be throwing. So, he's never had somebody reliable to throw it off to. I think,
yeah, exactly.
I honestly think this is amazing for Sam Darnold. And honestly, it puts him in never even roster him in a redraft league to like, he could be top 15. We could be looking at one of these guys that you stream. I think he could have a good season. And look, I know there's an argument to be made that Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold right now are like either at equal level playing field. They're different guys, but equal level playing field, or maybe you can make the argument that you'd rather have Teddy Bridgewater as your starting quarterback. This isn't just about now, it's about the future. Teddy Bridgewater is not a franchise quarterback. I think they're hoping Sam Darnold can become one because he's only 23 years old. I believe Bridgewater's in his late 20s, and he's had a ton of injury history. Bridgewater has never been the same since he had that injury in Minnesota. If you remember, he was lighting it up, and people were like, they finally found their franchise quarterback, and then he got injured, and he's never been the same. So I think this is smart for the Panthers as well, getting a young 23-year-old quarterback who has a lot of experience already.
Yeah, it makes me 100% excited. I did get into a war of words on Twitter.
Oh, wow. I was like, a world of wars.
Dude, I'm a walking tongue twister, dude. I think my mind processes words so fast when they come out of my mouth, and I'm always just twisting it up. But yeah.
A word war. Yeah, that's what it is. I was in
a word war.
Yes.
A little bit better. With someone on Twitter. I got it again.
Is that the new one?
Very much a lateral move, right? You just kind of exchange. But after considering it, that was very much a gut reaction. If you really look at it, you'll see Sam Darnold is younger. He's had 3 years of Adam Gase, which has just been known that when Adam Gase is a head coach in the NFL, everyone suffers from it. Okay. He gets a new, fresh start, and he's 23 years old, like you mentioned. He's got his entire career ahead of him. He could totally make something of it. Whereas Bridgewater, we kind of know what his ceiling is and what he can do. Therefore, you're going to take your chance on the brighter future and go from there, right? So, also, good tidbit about Robbie Anderson, because as a dynasty owner of Robbie Anderson, I'm pretty excited about that stat.
Oh yeah, dude, I love it. I mean, he was playing well last year with Teddy Bridgewater, and Teddy Bridgewater doesn't chuck it down the field like Sam Darnold does. So
everyone thought DJ Moore was going to get those pepper targets, and it ended up being, well, it was a little bit of back and forth, but Robbie Anderson was much more consistent.
Sam Darnold does chuck it down the field, and I heard somebody bring this up on another podcast, and I think it's interesting. What if, because and we'll talk about this guy a little bit at the end of the podcast, Kyle Trask. I believe he's like 23, 24 years old, right? So he's the same age as Sam Darnold. Mm-hmm. And the person I was listening to proposed this question. What if Sam Darnold was in this draft right now? Where would he go? And actually, I was listening to on ESPN, they have a podcast called First Draft, and it's actually Mel Kiper and Phil Yates and one of the other guys that does the mock drafts. And Mel Kiper said, if Sam Darnold was in this draft right now, knowing what we know now, all the Jets history and everything, that he would go number 2 overall. So maybe that's not true, but that being said, the Panthers wanted a quarterback. They were never going to get the guy they wanted at number 8. So this is a better option for them.
Yeah, 100% agreed. 100% agreed. I am excited for Sam Darnold. Are you a dynasty owner of Sam Darnold?
No, I think I streamed him a couple times, but and that reminds me real quick, shout out to Justin joining our Dynasty League. Now all the members of First Round Fantasy are in a Dynasty League together. And yes, I'm talking about DeMont too. DeMont's still part of First Round Fantasy. I'm assuming he'll come on more during the regular season. But now all 5 of us are in a Dynasty League together, which is cool for some Dynasty talk on the podcast. But no, our good buddy Luis has Sam Darnold, and that is a come up if you were rostering Sam Darnold in a super flex league.
That is a come up, especially because he was flexing that super QB spot with.
Well, and he had Drew Brees, and Drew Brees retired. So perfect. Good for him.
We can talk about that all day long. We love our Dynasty League. It's new and dear to our hearts, but we're going to get into the heart of what we're talking about today, and that is rookie QBs, where they might fall in the draft, what teams they go to, and how likely they are to produce for fantasy. All right. First off, we got a few names here today. First and foremost, we're not going to touch on Trevor Lawrence. It's been widely reported that he is going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar with the number 1 overall pick. As far as fantasy concerns, I mean, people have comped him to Andrew Luck. I don't really know if I see that just yet from just the few bits of video I've seen from him. I do think he's probably the most NFL ready, but you see it time and time again. You just gotta wait and see with these guys, especially just recently. I mean, you talked about Patrick Mahomes earlier, right? This guy got to sit behind Alex Smith for an entire year. Alex Smith had a great season, and then he was released and he lands with Washington. Whatever. It's history from that point on. Mahomes goes on. He's a great quarterback for the NFL. You see someone like Justin Herbert last year. He only didn't start week 1. From then on, he was the starter, right? And he was fairly good for fantasy. You don't always see that. Some of these rookie quarterbacks tend to struggle. Joe Burrow, right? You draft that team, you draft that player. And also, like you mentioned, when you draft these franchise quarterbacks, you have time to build around them. That doesn't mean that they're going to have everything they need right away. Hence, Joe Burrow's line. He was atrocious last year because his line was awful, and he had a few good games, but he was mostly often under pressure, sacked, and not producing as much until later on in the season, right? Well, before he got hurt. So when I look at Trevor Lawrence as dynasty drafts, he's probably a first-round pick. You can't argue that. Late first round.
Yeah, I mean, in a super flex league, he's going number 1 overall. In most super. I mean,
I think it depends on what.
Look, I don't think it depends because our group of friends that we play with, we overvalue running backs. Like we love our running backs. Like we value running back no matter what. So I don't think it's the right thing, but a running back might go before him. But like in his ADP in rookie drafts is number 1 overall and in super flex, but not in regular. No.
Yeah, exactly. But all I'm saying is, you just have to really temper your expectations. A lot of these guys haven't even been hyped up to the level that they should be because we're just getting closer to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think cool your heads. I don't think he's going to be a week 1 starter by any means. You could probably pick him up later in your draft, stream him.
Yeah, not in a 10-team league. Definitely
Give
not.
Give it some time. You're not
maybe a 12-team
quarterbacks like this. So just be on the lookout. But yes, he is the number 1 quarterback going off the board. If that is not true, I will streak in my neighborhood.
Oh my goodness.
I will do it.
You have to stick to
that. Book it down, right?
I'm going to call Jacksonville and say, look, if you just don't do it, then we get to see Gabe streak.
You know what's good about that is luckily I'm in the process of moving, so I'll never see these people again. I'll just streak one time and be out the door. You know what I'm saying?
Just do it on your last day there. Just, have Alyssa park the car out on the street and you just run to the car. Look, this guy, Trevor Lawrence, he's a prodigy, man. He's like, he's the LeBron of the NFL. Like he's been like looked at since he was like 12 years old, man. It's crazy. So crazy. I don't doubt he's going to be good. Look, maybe not a top 5 quarterback right away outside of the gate, but he already has some nice pieces there to throw to. Like I am very excited to see DJ Chark. If he can stay healthy, I think DJ Chark gets a huge boost now that Trevor Lawrence is going to be there. Yeah. That's probably the biggest thing that I'll take away fantasy-wise from it.
Marvin Jones Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Laviska Shenault. It'll be interesting to see what those guys can do. Also, you have James Robinson. So they got a really young core there.
Oh, yeah.
To just kind of push the pedals and see how things go. But, there's Trevor Lawrence. That's what you're going to get. That's what we're going to see on the night of the draft, and I hope it pans out well for him. I never wish anybody ill will. I'm just saying don't give him your all right away. You don't trust him for fantasy right
away. Especially we mainly talk redraft, 10 to 12 team leagues. So if you're talking that, don't overdraft him in that sense. But I'd have a hard time. It depends on your team, right? If in a super flex league, like he's definitely draftable in a super flex league, startable. And then if you're talking dynasty for Trevor Lawrence, I have a hard time not taking him if I need a quarterback, number 1.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So we're moving on. I know we said we're going to talk literally before the show. We're not going to spend too much time on Trevor Lawrence. Here we go, wasting 5 minutes. It's good time, though. Never wasted. But we're moving on to Justin Fields, quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes. He comes into this draft with strong rushing capabilities. He's got a cannon for an arm, often compared to Josh Allen, right? So what I did personally is I looked at a few pro mock drafts. You know, we got ESPN, we got CBS. I just wanted to see what their takes were on this. And as of right now, according to CBS, Denver has him going, or I should say, he's going with the 9th pick to the Denver Broncos. After giving it a little bit of thought, deliberating it on my mind for a little bit, I think it is the necessary fit for Justin Fields. I think that is a situation where Drew Lock, we could see him as a starter, you know, week 1, week 2, and then it could very easily turn into a competition if things don't work out for Drew Lock early on in the season. Does that mean it's going to bode well for fantasy for Justin Fields? Not exactly. Obviously, the rushing upside is there, so you're excited for that. You're excited for his weapons, Jerry Jeudy, Sutton, and Font. But there are just quite a few other things that we have to wait to see how the everything falls. Jacob, what are you're shaking your head already, man. Give me your thoughts.
Well, look, I don't think there's no way in hell that Justin Fields falls to the Broncos. They are going to have to trade up. If you're talking about the Broncos trading up to number 4 pick, then yes. But for Justin Fields, and look, I labeled the video best fantasy landing spots, but we're kind of just guessing, right? Like we're kind of guessing 100%. Where they're going to be.
An educated guess.
I'll tell you what, if it's true that the Niners are drafting Mac Jones at 3 and then because Atlanta's willing to trade that pick, number 4 pick. So
there
if Denver trades up to number 4, all they do is swap, give a couple picks, you know, 2nd round, 3rd round picks, maybe another 1st for next year to Atlanta, and boom, you're in the number 4 spot. You get Justin Fields or maybe Trey Lance or Mac Jones. But I just don't think he's going to fall to there. I think they're at number 9, right?
Yeah, they're at number 9.
Currently, they're
and
at
I'm
number
glad
9.
you brought up. I'm glad you brought up the pick swap or the.
And I'm okay. Like when in these discussions, we could acknowledge trades. And one of my guys, I actually have a trade involved. So because it was the only way it would make sense, right?
Okay.
Well, I just meaning like this situation, like if you were like
in fantasy right now, like
no. I'm talking about no. I'm talking about like, you know, we're basically like doing our own version of like where these guys going to go. So you could have said, all right, so I have Denver trading up to the number 4 spot to get Justin Fields. So I have another team doing that later on in the draft. But I think Justin Fields is going to the 49ers, and I think it would be amazing for him. Look, I know everybody is saying that they're going to draft Mac Jones. And like I said, I don't have enough information to be too upset about that. You know, if I watch college football and I've been following all 5 of these guys and I know their strengths inside and out, and I was like, no, they cannot draft Mac Jones, then I'd be making a bigger fit about it. But I don't know enough. But like I said, how do you go from being, maybe late 1st round to like now the number 3 overall? So Look, Justin Fields it was him and Trevor Lawrence coming up ever since they were in middle school. They were coming up and it was always them two. They were the top prospects. Zach Wilson wasn't even talked about until this year. He wasn't acknowledged to go this high. Justin Fields was ranked above him prospect-wise, and now after this season, now Zach Wilson is the consensus number 2 overall pick going to the Jets. But I heard that Zach Wilson can windmill dunk. So if that's true, like I don't blame the Jets, but I just think as soon as I saw the Niners trade, I was, first of all, very happy. I remember exactly where I was. And then I was like, we're getting Justin Fields. And that's what I hope for. That's what I'm sticking for. Look, Mac Jones is labeled as a non-athletic quarterback. And I just don't think that's, unless you're an amazing pocket passer, I just don't think that's, smart to give up this much to get a quarterback that's not a difference maker. Maybe he can thrive in Shanahan's system, but I think you have a great system, you put a great athlete in Justin Fields in it, then they can both help each other. So I love this for fantasy. I love it for real life. Give me Justin Fields to the Niners.
Of course you would love it for real life. Of course you would love it for fantasy. It's the perfect fit. He's your guy on your team, it makes sense.
Look,
I don't see it.
Gabe, I'll tell you this right now. If you made a promise to the Jags, I don't know if that was
do this. Don't do this.
No. It's a different promise.
Watch your words. Okay, go ahead.
If the 49ers draft Justin Fields, because that's more likely than yours. Like, I'm not going streaking for that.
Okay, fair.
But I'm saying if the 49ers draft Justin Fields, I will buy a Justin Fields jersey, like, right away.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, good.
But no, normally you don't, like, most people don't do that. I mean, big NFL fans do that, but I'm just saying, like, I'll buy, because he could be a bust. I'm just saying, I'm not going to wait. Like, it's not like me buying a Justin Herbert jersey.
You don't
right
have to
now.
validate things, man.
I'm saying,
you're not
like,
a big sports guy, I guess. You don't want to.
I'm going to buy it before he plays, is what I'm saying.
That's great, because you know why? You'll have it before while he's riding the bench until he gets a start. It's great.
Exactly.
You'll be a Justin Fields truther.
Look, this is like wearing a Justin Herbert jersey before he started last year. Can you imagine that?
I didn't know anybody did that. Maybe some people in San Diego
exactly.
That's good for them. Really quick, before we move on, though, I know that you mentioned the trade option. Just to throw it in there, if you are interested, NFL's mock draft did have a trade happening here with the number 4 pick, and that was the Patriots trading up with the Falcons to draft Justin Fields. So something to keep your eye on. You had mentioned the Broncos might trade up. You had also mentioned that, just right here, that the New England Patriots are likely to trade up. So we'll have to keep an eye and see. But I like that better too, honestly. Justin Fields goes, he learns from a quarterback of a similar not stature, but a similar play style in Cam Newton, right? Flexible, runs, got a strong arm. It makes sense that you want to mold that guy under someone who was a former MVP in the NFL Football League. So I like that move as well, but I do think that there are not just quarterbacks in this draft, and I think Justin Fields falls to number 9. I think that's more of a possibility. We'll see. It could happen. You never know. You ready to move on?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and talk about Zach Wilson, formerly just talked about just a few minutes ago, the quarterback from BYU. I don't know why I said it like that. I have no affection for BYU. You got a good football team, I guess. That's cool for you guys. So both mock drafts that I looked at, they have him going at number 2 for the Jets. We talked about this right before we came on. You had said you don't know if it's that simple. What are your thoughts on the man, Zach Wilson?
Look, if I had to bet $20 on it right now, I would bet that Zach Wilson's going to the Jets. And that's what I have written down on my list, to be honest. Like, I just can't, I've done enough research to be like, okay, it's likely going to be Zach Wilson. But before I settled on that and I was getting crazy, I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And this is not what I really think is going to happen, but I think it's still a possibility that it's possible that maybe the Jets are like, no, we want Justin Fields, because like I said, prior to last year, it was always looked at as Trevor Lawrence 1, Justin Fields 2, and a lot of things changed. So what if the Robert Saleh, the 49ers defensive coordinator who went on to become the head coach of the New York Jets, told Shanahan that, hey, we're actually going to draft Justin Fields. Like, that's our guy. And Shanahan's like, okay, you're going to draft Justin Fields, and we're trading up to number 3 so we can draft Zach Wilson. I don't think that's going to happen, because at first I was like thinking that Justin Fields was like more athletic than Zach Wilson. But apparently, after doing some research, Zach Wilson is very athletic.
Yes.
Like, very, very athletic, and he could do a bunch of stuff. So my point is, the Jets need a playmaker. They don't. If the Jets drafted Mac Jones, it would be a disaster. But if they can get somebody in there, they need a Mahomes guy. A Watson guy on the field, and a guy who, okay, if his first read isn't good, that he can move around, figure something out, make a play happen. And I think he's going to go to the Jets, and I think he's going to be similar to, how Russell Wilson, and not because they have the same last name, but because Russell Wilson has so much volume, because he's like their whole offense, right? Like almost everything involves Russell Wilson in their offense. I think it's going to be similar with Zach Wilson with the Jets. Everything they do, every play is going to involve him, and he's going to be the one getting involved. Hopefully they can get a decent run game going there. So I think because they're going to rest so much on his shoulders.
Dude, they're both
yeah,
man. It happens.
The whole offense is going to rest on his shoulders. So he's going to have a ton of, I think he's going to have rushing yards. He's going to have a ton of yards passing. So I think it actually really could be good for fantasy because, even though they have a defensive coach, their defense is player wise isn't up to snub yet. So I think it's going to be Zach Wilson to the Jets, and it could be good for fantasy.
It could be good for fantasy. And Jacob, I have to partially agree with you. I did not like your comps because I have a better one. And before I say that, I will say this, and I'll stake my claim on it now. I believe that Zach Wilson is the best quarterback. When you look at this draft class 5 years from now, Zach Wilson will be one of the standout quarterbacks from this draft, okay? And I say that for a number of reasons, which I will list now. I like him a lot. First and foremost, crazy athletic, strong arm. Okay. He's going to be one of those rookies. Is New York the best landing spot? No, but they're in a rebuild. I love Robert Saleh. I love what he was able to do with the 49ers defense. I believe that there's a culture in that. He's bringing his culture to New York. They're starting something new. It's brewing. I love it. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes. You mentioned Deshaun Watson. I don't think he's like those guys. I think he's like my other guy who I have staked a claim in many times before.
I knew this was coming.
And that is Josh Allen. That is my guy, Josh Allen. He's got all the traits. He's got the arm. He's got the athletic ability. What I did first is I just wanted to see what he was like. I did what anybody else would do. I watched some highlight videos on him. Before I read anything else, and I saw that other people were comparing him to Josh Allen, within 35 seconds of watching that my first highlight video on him before I watched many others, I said, Josh Allen all the way. This guy has it. He could be fantasy ready right away. Of course, he's going to start. Who are they going to put in front of him? They don't have anyone there. Zach Wilson is going to start day one. I'm not saying I'm starting him day one, but I am making sure that I get a hold of this guy in all of my fantasy drafts. Whether it's redraft, I'm picking him up as my second quarterback, like my last pick as a flyer, or, he'll probably go earlier than that. And in dynasty drafts, I'm taking him over people like, probably not Trevor Lawrence if he's there, but I'm taking him over every other quarterback that we're going to talk about today. That's how much I like this guy.
Wow.
That's how much I like him. You also got a young receiver there, Denzel Mims, who showed promise last year with Sam Darnold. I know, dude. It's a Thursday. Who showed promise last year. I love that combination already. You also got Crowder underneath. And we'll see what they do with that running back situation. It'll be a tough first year, just like it was for Josh Allen. But even Josh Allen proved to be fantasy relevant and proved to be that price player that they paid up for. So I'm all in on Zach Wilson. I can't wait to have him on my fantasy team this year and for years to come.
Yeah, he's exciting. I get what you mean. Like, look, you probably would have to take Trevor Lawrence over him in a super flex league dynasty, but you're kind of more excited about Zach Wilson because you want to be like, see, I called it. He's great at fantasy instead of like everybody knows Trevor Lawrence is going to be great. So it's kind of like it's just a little bit more exciting, I think.
100%. I couldn't agree with you there. Or I couldn't agree more with you there. We are ready to move on?
Well, don't forget he can windmill dunk too. So
yeah, he's gonna be Space Jam 3. No more basketball players.
Yeah, it's gonna be a football
movie.
Go to
Zach Wilson. It's gonna be awesome. We got one more quarterback to talk about today, and that is Mac Jones, quarterback from Alabama. Currently, as it stands in the most recent NFL mock draft, they had him going at number 3, like Jacob had said, to the San Francisco 49ers. Surprisingly, I don't know who's doing the mock drafts over there at CBS. I have to see what's going on. They have him going at number 15 to the New England Patriots. I like both of these landing spots. Look, there comes a time where, yes, there are a lot of teams looking to rebuild, looking for quarterbacks. I can think of 5 or 6 off the top of my head. There are about 4 or 5 prize guys in this draft class at the QB position. So you're thinking, hey, obviously some of these teams that, are going to pick earlier don't need a QB. You never know. There's cornerbacks. There's so many other positions to think about that need to be addressed. It's possible, right? I mean, these guys get paid big money to do these mock drafts. I kind of like the move, but I also liked Justin Fields' move to the Jets with the switch at the trade, or Justin Fields to the Pats with the trade via the Falcons at number 4. So I don't know if I like Mac Jones falling to 15, but I can totally see it. It's realistic. But I also can see him going at number 3 to the San Francisco 49ers.
Wait, did you say this is the last quarterback we're talking about? We haven't talked about Trey Lance yet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we got Trey Lance too. Well,
but
I would have caught myself. Yeah, but what do you think about Mac Jones?
Mac Jones. So, like I said, I'm just looking at this kind of like from a casual NFL fan, but a diehard fantasy football fan perspective, because I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert, but I listen to like every day. I listen to like 5 football or fantasy football podcasts, and every time that Mac Jones is talked about, they're talking about his, his attributes and all that stuff. And like he's labeled non-athletic. So I just think that, look, honestly, the 49ers probably would be the best fit for him because they would make him look good. That's what that system can do for a quarter. I mean, it did it for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I just think that I actually think Mac Jones is going to fall. I think the first 4 quarterbacks are going to be off the board by this time. And I actually think Mac Jones is going to end up going to the Broncos.
Oh, interesting. And that's not bad. See, I mean, 6 picks away from 15. It's not bad. It's reasonable.
Yeah, I think because the thing is, maybe he shouldn't go that high, but this league is so quarterback, hungry that they're always looking for the next best quarterback. So I think what's going to end up happening is, we'll talk about Trey Lance in a second. I have a prediction there. But I think by the time you get to, I hope the Niners don't take Mac Jones and the Justin Fields goes to San Francisco. And then in that sense, because I don't hear any other team super high on Mac Jones, I think the Broncos are not happy with Drew Lock. Mac Jones has gotten a lot of hype lately. So now the Broncos are like, screw it. Hopefully this is our guy. They take him at 9 and boom. And at the very least, if you're not going to elevate him like in a Kyle Shanahan type system, at the very least, put him in a situation where he has a ton of weapons. I can't think of many places that need a quarterback where you can slide somebody in there, and you got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick. You got the run, you got Melvin Gordon there. It's just, and their team's like pretty good. So I would love it. I think Trey Lance or Justin Fields would thrive more there, but I think it's very possible that Mac Jones falls to 9.
Yeah, it's very possible. I don't like it necessarily. And I guess I'll say it now because I had so much praise for Zach Wilson. I have very little for Mac Jones. He's probably my least favorite for the reasons that you mentioned. Again, the guy's probably 10 times as athletic as I am. I hate criticizing people.
I know, right?
I am nowhere in comparison to, but that's just the way that it falls sometimes when we are sitting here talking about these players. But I thought about it more and more, and the Patriots just seem like a better option because they had one of the most unathletic quarterbacks of all time in Tom Brady, right? And then Bill Belichick turned that guy into a 6th Super Bowl winner. Okay,
I think that might be what Kyle Shanahan thinks he could do with him.
You know what? You never know. That's why, we're only going to talk about a few names here, but there are going to be quarterbacks that go in the 5th, the 4th, the 6th round. Remember Tom Brady? He was a 6th round draft pick. Look at him now. So these names that we're talking about today could be widely overshadowed 10 years from now when we're talking about the kid from Northern Kentucky. You just never know, right? But Mac Jones, I watched his pro day, and one of the first things I noticed was just how quick the ball comes out of his arm. It's unbelievable, dude. It literally just looks like it's just air. It's just air. He's so fast.
Like he's not even moving his hands, just like
yeah, it's just going, right? And then I started watching his game day highlights. And I came to the realization that this guy just had a really great team.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
to mention, the more
Alabama.
yeah, right? The more and more I watched Mac Jones highlights, the more and more I got really interested in drafting Devontae Smith, his wide receiver. That dude is crazy, and I can't wait to talk about him on our wide receiver special in a few weeks. But that's really it. I mean, the guy had a really solid offensive line. He had a really solid run game. It's just like every highlight was him dropping back 4 steps and just throwing it deep because you got one of the fastest guys in.
Oh yeah, man! You have all the best players in the country playing, protecting you. So you're throwing to 3 NFL wide receivers, future NFL wide receivers.
So, I mean, you bring up the fact that he could fall somewhere like Denver, right? And they do have weapons, but also it's next level. You're playing teams that have top tier talent at every position, right? And I just don't know if that translates very well. I think he's going to get the pressure, and we're going to have to see what he does with that pressure. I'd much rather see him go to someone like the Niners, someone like the Patriots, where we know that these organizations are great.
They're solid. They're going to groom him well and get him ready.
They're going to groom him well. I think that's the proper development for a quarterback like Mac Jones. A lot of people out there, they say he's NFL ready. He's the most NFL ready out of all 5 of these quarterbacks that we're talking about. I don't necessarily see it yet, but I could surely see it if he gets the time to go to a place like San Francisco or New England.
Yeah, I mean, I could see either of those happening, to be honest. I do think the Patriots are in line to try to get a QB.
Yes, most assuredly. Because, Newton isn't Newton anymore, man. He just doesn't do what he does. I skipped over this guy earlier. My bad, because I kind of like the guy. I got a soft place in my heart for him, and that is Trey Lance, quarterback from, I believe it's North Dakota State University, one of the smaller schools on our list and one of the top prospects in our heart. Right off the bat, that does kind of scare me when we talk about Trey Lance. Small school, his schedule wasn't necessarily the most difficult. I'm sure that's what a lot of people are saying, especially the top analysts that everybody listens to, right? You just can't help but agree with that. Not only that, he was in one of the conferences that did not play in 2020. He played 1 game in 2020.
Yeah.
His season was cut short because of COVID. One of the only players in this draft class that was affected by COVID. Everybody else, those big conferences, they had the money to push through, okay? Not whatever conference Trey Lance came from. And you know what? It's unfortunate. It kind of sucks. He played in 1 game. It was so-so. His 2019 sets, they were great, okay? In 2019, he threw for 66%, so his accuracy is a little bit of an issue. One thing I loved in his highlight videos were his ability to break tackles. The dude just felt like his O-line was breaking all the time, and you just see this guy dance like he's dancing with the devil, man. He doesn't want to be caught. He's getting touched, he's getting stripped, and he's just finding ways to get away. I don't know if that happens in the NFL where you get guys that are 2 steps faster, 2 times stronger than some of these smaller players that he's playing with in a very smaller Division I division, obviously. But nonetheless, let's talk about where he could go. NFL has him going to the Broncos at number 9. CBS has him going to the Niners at number 3. Joe, if you are here, I know that Joseph Marsaz was talking about Trey Lance and the San Francisco 49ers connection. I'm not going to do his bidding for him. I don't know if it's that likely. I'd like to see it. Who knows? I'm rooting for the small guy all the time. I do like the Niners. I think the fit is there. People like Mac Jones might have more interest. So that's just kind of the way that goes. But again, a situation where this guy doesn't play in 2020, you give him a season behind Jimmy Garoppolo, let him develop, maybe 2. We saw people like Aaron Rodgers sit for 2 seasons. Patrick Mahomes sat for a season. These quarterbacks that sit and simmer and get all that knowledge, they tend to do much well. They tend to do much better, much better than a lot of these other guys, right? That just get thrown into the fire. I love his rushing ability, and I think that his ceiling will be very high if he gets to a situation where he can sit, simmer, and learn. Jacob, how are you feeling? Because obviously you don't want him going to the San Francisco 49ers.
No, I would be cool with that. Like I would rather that than Mac Jones. And like I said, nothing personal towards Mac Jones. Like he could be the better option for them, but I just want a guy when we were watching. I mean, it's tough to talk about Deshaun Watson, but it's just like when you're watching him and then you see him, he moves to the side and then somebody's trying to tackle him. And as he's falling, he makes a throw and it's like he gets kicked in the face and he's still making throws. Like, I want an athletic guy like that. And maybe the Niners don't need that, but that's what I want. But here's what I'm going to say about Trey Lance. Here's my prediction. I think, and did you say one of the mock drafts have Trey Lance? Oh, no, you had Mac Jones going to the Patriots at 15, right?
Yeah.
Or did they have Trey Lance? So I think, look, Belichick, he can't coach forever, right? He wants to make an impact. And what could you do to like bring in a young quarterback and still have maybe Cam Newton start and have this guy learn under Belichick? And I think the Patriots are going to trade up to number 4 and get Trey Lance. I think it's going to go Lawrence, Wilson, Fields, and then, or even if it goes, Lawrence, Wilson, Mac Jones, I guess, then I think Belichick's going to trade into that number 4 spot, get Trey Lance, and have his athletic quarterback to maybe start later on this season and then take over for the next couple of years. And you have a young quarterback under a rookie contract. You have the tight ends in place. You have Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, still really young. I think Belichick is getting this team ready for this type of situation. And why wait till next year when right now it's not a good quarterback class? Could change, but why not just do it now and have this guy learn under a similar type quarterback like Cam Newton? And I think that's a high possibility. I know Belichick's thinking about trading up to that 4 spot.
Yeah, it's been widely speculated. We'll have to see what happens. Like so many of these things we've talked about, man, we get so excited about it. It's really funny that I mentioned it because, listening to an NFL podcast just a few days ago, one of the questions that they posed was, do we, as analysts, as writers, as, TV characters and people, do we hype players? And it's like 100%. We hype these guys before even knowing what they can do. So, but hey, that doesn't stop the fun, the madness, the craziness, the speculation. I love it all. I'm excited for it, but we'll just have to wait and see. There are a few other names worth mentioning. I know that we were going to talk about Kyle Trask for a little bit. Obviously, I believe right now he's going somewhere in the second round, maybe falls a little bit further. Who knows? We might even see him going in the first round.
If he jumps up to the first, I could see someone like, I don't think they'll do this, but someone like Pittsburgh taking him
100%
at the end of their draft. Or if he slips to the second round and they can take him I don't know if he'll drop all the way to the end of the second, but I could see someone like Pittsburgh or the Washington football team they have a high end. I believe they have a middle, around the middle of the pack second round pick. And I could see them, and I don't think he'd start right away. I think Fitzpatrick would start, and then similar, to Tua. This guy's 6'5", man. I know maybe all his success is due to throwing to Kyle Pitts. Maybe, who knows? But I think
look him up.
He's definitely, from what I've heard, he's the 5th. Or wait, is 6th, right? Highest, 6th highest rated QB prospect. So. Like I said, quarterback hungry league, man. One of these teams are going to draft him hoping that he can be successful. And like you said, Tom Brady 6th round, this guy in the 2nd round, he could end up being the best quarterback out of all of these. You never know. So I definitely think Pittsburgh could draft for the future. Another big guy like Big Ben, or maybe Washington.
So in dynasty drafts, we're telling you essentially, you're picking these guys up. You're going to take the gamble, obviously. In redraft leagues, take a seat. Kill the hype a little bit with your pride. See how things play out, especially as we progress through the preseason and whatnot. But with that being said, Jacob, you got any other quarterbacks to talk about, or are we wrapping up today's show?
Nah, man. I think if I spoke about any of the quarterbacks, I would have no idea what I'm talking about. So I'm good ending there.
I feel it, man. Well, as always, we appreciate you guys so much for coming out today, listening, sharing your thoughts. We love it all. We take it all in with our hearts, whatever I was going to say. But we're so happy to have you here. We're so happy to have you listening. If you have a question for the show, be sure to always email us at firstroundfantasy@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, First Round Fantasy, Instagram, First Round Fantasy. And you can always buy the merch. We got it wrapping today, guys.
Yes, I do want to shout out. I know you saw I made a new Twitter handle. I want to shout it out.
Sure, go ahead.
So at Jacob FRF Sports, I decided like I don't want to flood my regular Twitter with a bunch of fantasy football stuff. So I just wanted to make one Twitter for all my fantasy sports stuff, mainly fantasy football. So if you find me at Jacob FRF Sports, I'm planning on posting every day about fantasy football. So check me out there.
I love to see it, but Jacob, you can't just say that and not mention your other gig. We got to give a shout out. It's sponsor time, baby. Pretty much. Apocalypse. Apocalypse is a huge movie channel on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out already, they're great. Trailer breakdowns, trailer reactions. They do a ton of other stuff on the side with Marvel, movie reviews, everything in between. They're great guys. Jacob Bartley, also a man of the Apocalypse team. You know, it's big time compared to us.
Yeah, check it out on YouTube. We play movie games. We do fantasy movie drafts, actually, which is the closest thing to fantasy football. We do watch-alongs. We play movie trivia. So check it out at Apocalypse Movies. And shout out to Jake Berlin, who makes all our graphics. He's also part of Apocalypse as well.
Oh, my gosh. It's like we just won a Grammy. I love it. We're just giving thanks to everybody. That's it for us, guys. We will see you next week when we break down some of the rookie running backs in the 2021 draft class. Until then, be safe. Have a good night. Peace.